Welcome back to Underrated Moments. I'm Lim, the writer and today's host. Before we get going, I wanted to remind you we're holding a 10,000 subscriber giveaway. If you subscribe, watch this video till the end, and leave a comment, you'll be entered in a random drawing for a saber-forged lightsaber. I've already got the YouTube comment picker app up and running, so again, just subscribe and then comment and you'll be entered to win. Alright, now on to today's story. It had only been a few years since Qui-Gon Jinn's death on the mid-rim world of Naboo. But in that short span of time, Obi-Wan Kenobi had done something incredible. He had managed to teach the Chosen One when all other Jedi Masters thought he would fail. And if you took one look at young Anakin Skywalker, you'd see a young Padawan bubbling with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm for the Force, and learning all he could from his master, Obi-Wan. But in truth, Skywalker was troubled, and Kenobi was all too aware of it. And while on a mission to the ash-covered world of Carnelian IV, Obi-Wan revealed one of his greatest secrets. He thought he might be failing as a Jedi Master. Why did he think this way? And was Chancellor Palpatine using the dark side to interfere in Anakin's Jedi training? Join us as we answer these questions and more in today's Underrated Moment. The journey to Carnelian IV was a particularly somber affair. While aboard their small Republic transport, Obi-Wan Kenobi and his young apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, barely spared a word for each other. It made sense, after all. Kenobi was still reeling from a bombshell announcement that Anakin had confessed just a short time earlier. While still on the surface of Coruscant, Anakin handed the slender hilt of his blue lightsaber to his master and announced that he would be leaving the Jedi Order. Kenobi didn't know it at the time, but it was all part of Chancellor Palpatine's plan to separate Anakin from his master. The Sith Lord had recently escorted young Anakin to the lowest levels of the capital world to show Skywalker all of the horrible criminal activities that the Republic senators got into when they thought nobody was looking. Anakin couldn't stomach the thought that the Jedi were executing missions on behalf of such evil, greedy beings. So he decided to leave, but only after this mission to Carnelian was complete. After they touched down on the ash-covered world, though, a war between two local factions ensnared the two Jedi. And after killing a mindless horde of monsters, known as corpse leeches, Anakin and Obi-Wan found themselves momentarily in the safekeeping of the local warriors, aboard one of their ancient airships. Behind the captain's seat, a bald, black-bearded soldier piloted the craft. His name was Grecker, and for the past few hours, he couldn't quite get over the fact that these Jedi had defeated him without breaking a sweat. By now, they had formed an uneasy alliance, so the ruffian thought he'd take a chance and try to find out more about these mysterious swordsmen known as Jedi. "The boy, he your son?" he said, as he pulled back on the ship's yoke, pulling it away from the sharp, ice-covered cliffs of the nearby mountains. Kenobi, still consumed with the thought of Anakin abandoning the Jedi Order, stood still right behind him. "No. He is my Padawan, something between a student and an apprentice," Kenobi answered simply. "He's a student?" Grecker barked, shocked. "Sure handled us easily enough, down on that mountain, not to mention the corpse leeches," he said, before adding a final comment. "Tough kid." Still, with the same solemn expression, Kenobi responded, "You have no idea." As Anakin worked on a few wiring issues in the back of the ship, he got to know a local girl about his age. Even by this time, Skywalker's thoughts were consumed with Padme, but he rarely had the opportunity to talk to any other girl, at least not one that wasn't in the Jedi Temple, training alongside him. This rare opportunity, and Anakin's involuntary daydreams of building a life with her, was surprisingly pleasant, or at least not as shameful as the Jedi Code made it seem. Back at the front of the ship, Grecker continued to pry. Kenobi was almost certain that these were not just innocent questions, but continued to go along with the soldier, acting as if it was an innocent conversation. "How'd you get to be his teacher?" Grecker asked. Kenobi's mind raced to the final moments of Qui-Gon's life, after Maul had run the point of his blade through his master's stomach. "My own master asked me to train him. He was dying. I could not refuse," Kenobi said. Obi-Wan always seemed to find himself replaying the same series of events whenever he recalled his own master. What if Qui-Gon had waited for him before taking on Maul by himself? What if they had stopped him earlier, when in the upper levels of the plasma refinery? But sensing that he was about to head down an inescapable hole of self-doubt, Kenobi shook his head and focused on his apprentice. Anakin is important. He has extraordinary potential, both with respect to his own abilities and in his ability to affect the balance of good and evil in the universe. He requires guidance, and I swore to provide it. And Grecker, who noticed that Kenobi didn't have the most optimistic tone, couldn't help but wonder why the Jedi Master was so glum about the prospect. "You don't sound all that happy about it," Grecker responded, as he pushed the yoke of the airship back in the opposite direction, following the natural flow of the valley. "I have no issues with Anakin," Kenobi answered. "He is asking questions, as he should be at his age. I'm just uncertain that I have the answers he needs. If there is a problem, it's with me. The failure is mine." Anakin's own harsh life, as a slave in the deserts of Tatooine, had shown him the hypocrisy of the Galactic Republic firsthand. All too often, traders and delegations from the inner core would travel to the outer rim aboard their dazzling starships, and as they surveyed planets that comprised Hutt space, they would delicately dance around the issues of the criminal clans, spice smuggling, and even slavery. After all, even though the Republic had an official anti-slavery stance, they didn't want to jeopardize any potential trade deals with the Hutt and their criminal organizations known as the Kajidiks. And even when Qui-Gon Jinn escorted young Anakin around the race circuits of Mos Espa, Skywalker couldn't help but wonder why a powerful Jedi Knight like Jinn didn't simply ignite his emerald blade and liberate all of the nearby slaves. And at one point, Qui-Gon even flat out claimed that the lives of slaves might actually be better in servitude. As a young Jedi Padawan, the contrast between what the Jedi said and what they actually did was even more striking. Every day, Anakin saw the powerful knights and masters of the temple preach about the sanctity of life and the need to maintain peace. But all too often, the Jedi intervened in conflicts around the galaxy. Their mere presence invited an escalation, and eventually, the Jedi would use their lightsabers to defend themselves. But the end result, as far as Anakin saw it, was that Jedi ended up taking more lives than they saved. And if they were willing to kill in those failed interventions around the galaxy, why weren't they willing to use their might preemptively by forcing the corrupt senators of Coruscant to stop their backdoor dealings, and engaging in the missions that only served to make the politicians richer at the expense of the Jedi and the sentients they killed? Whenever Anakin brought these concerns to Kenobi, his master didn't exactly disagree. Obi-Wan saw the same issues in the Jedi Order, but unlike his own master, Qui-Gon Jinn, who followed the living force and didn't fully trust the Jedi Council, Kenobi was much more practical. Sure, the Jedi might not have been perfect, but the galaxy was imperfect, and the Order was doing the best it could. After a moment's pause, Kenobi continued, "Anakin may respect me, but he is less sure about the Order which we belong to. We have great power, but we spend a great deal of time teaching our people how to use that power wisely. It requires patience, and Anakin finds patience difficult, almost impossible. He hates to wait for anything. He has decided he will be better off walking his own path." That much was true, and it was Chancellor Palpatine who pushed Anakin over the edge and helped him make his final decision to abandon the Order.